Good evening. Welcome to the February 15th, 2024 Community Preservation Committee meeting at Town Hall. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this meeting will be conducted via in-person and via remote means. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website at www.northandoverma.gov. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so on their televisions by turning to Comcast Channel 9, Verizon Channel 26, or online at www.northandovercam.org. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the town website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of the proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. If the public would like to participate in the public meeting, please email your questions or comments prior to or during the meeting to cpcemails@northandoverma.gov. The question or comment will be provided to the committee before the meeting or read during the proceedings if received during or shortly before the meeting. Thank you. Our main business tonight is hearing for applicants for FY25 projects. And so towards that end, we'll start with the, why don't we start with the Affordable Housing Trust, and then we'll do the Housing Authority. Do those first. So.
Hi.
Hi.
I think Mary was going to log in. You sent it to
I sent her the meeting invite. She accepted, and I told her like
Okay.
but
So she's not on, right?
I guess not.
All right.
Do you want to wait and go? If you want to wait, that's fine too.
No, I mean, it's fine. She can probably answer specific questions about the actual units that are being proposed, but, I mean, I can probably answer your other questions.
Okay.
Do you want me to just give you an overview?
Yes, that'd be great.
All
Laura.
right, so right now, Bread and Roses Housing and the Affordable Housing Trust. Oh, first, Chris wanted me to apologize. He's the chair of the Affordable Housing Trust. He couldn't be here tonight. He's stuck in Boston, so. So right now, the Affordable Housing Trust and Bread and Roses, we are partnering on 20 Brown Court, which has been purchased, and it's going to start building in the spring. This application for next year is to expand that. The plan had always been that they would purchase all of the units on Brown Court. So this is for 14 through 16, and it's going to be 4 additional units because it's going to be two duplexes. Basically, they know what the design, what the historic district is requesting, so they're using the same basis for that. And this goes right along with the trust typically has, well, before the market went crazy, typically would contribute $125,000 per unit. So this goes right along with that, which we've done in the past. So they have not purchased it yet, but they do have a purchase and sale to purchase it. So, and they apply for all the grants and the DHCD and all those other.
Okay. All right, so I see it looks like, I think just to set the context, like the overall project would be about 2.7 million, and through Bread and Roses and other funds,
Yep.
they would pay about 2.2, and the Affordable Housing Trust would kick in 500,000.
Correct.
Okay, and that's for 4 units of housing. So
For 4 units of housing. Yeah.
great.
Yeah. And it's another one of these properties that it really needs to be cleaned up. So it's going to improve the neighborhood. All of these are going to improve the neighborhood significantly.
We want to start on Adam's side. We'll work our way around.
first.
Okay.
So I'll pass it off to
Okay.
my colleagues.
I have no questions.
Real quick, could you refresh who ends up procuring or getting into these homes? I see the
Yeah.
income limits, but I think they actually put money down, and then there's a limit or a conservation of some sort, or a restriction.
Yep.
Could you brief us on that real quick?
Sure. So the way it works is Bread and Roses owns the land, and the buyers buy the home. So they're home ownership, they're not rentals. And Bread and Roses, they give a 99-year lease on it. It's restricted affordable. So even though the homeowners can earn some equity in it, they can't go and just sell it for market rate once they get in there. There are income requirements that they have to meet for it to be affordable. And I believe that one of these may actually be up to 100% area median income, which is pretty high. Typically, I know for Maggie's, you guys are usually around 40 or 60, is that?
For our HUD programs, it's 40, but
40,
for the state,
yeah.
we use 80.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, so it's a pretty good percentage. So they have to qualify, they have to get a mortgage, they purchase it just like you and I would purchase, only the only difference is they don't own the land. So,
If I recall, the equity becomes, that they actually get becomes greater as time goes by. Let's say 10 years, it's 100%. I'm only saying this for Adam or something like that, but then it's like 5 or 10% if you sell within the first 2 years.
yeah, I don't know the exact
it's-
percentages,
a-
but they do earn equity on it for being in there for a certain amount of time, so.
Okay, anything else? Thank you, though.
You're welcome.
I don't have any additional questions. I just, other than to say that Bread and Roses has been a great partner over the years, so.
They have.
No questions. Great project.
I'm just curious, how much are you paying for the property and then the rest is repairs?
You know what, there's a copy of the purchase and
Yeah,
sale.
I see it, but I
It
think that's
does-
one piece of property?
575, I thought.
Is that just that's just the one, right? And then the other one's gonna be the same, or? I'm just curious.
I thought the P&S was for 14 and 16. Is that not what it says?
I think that's what it says.
Okay. Sorry, I only
Oh.
printed the first 2 pages.
Okay, well, that's it. Yeah, 570.
570,
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
Okay.
14 to 16.
yeah.
Well, I agree, and that neighborhood needs to be fixed, and town's gonna benefit from that, for sure.
Yeah.
No questions?
Can you refresh me, where is Brown Street exactly? Oh, but I don't know.
Off of
Am I
water,
pointing the
right
right
next to
way?
the, runs up next to
Of
the,
water?
runs up next to the green apple, the
Oh,
west.
yeah, okay,
Yeah.
okay, good. How much, right now, how much money is in the Affordable Housing Trust pot?
So we have 500,000, I think, right now. I can get you an exact number, it's on my computer.
That's fine, I was
Somewhere
just-
around 4 or 5.
So this is, would the 500,000 get filtered through the trust
Mm-hmm.
and then go out?
Yeah.
Okay. Other than our project, is any other money coming in? I mean, other than what we fund traditionally in a year, is there any money coming into the Affordable Housing Trust?
Not that I'm aware of, but there would be if there would be the inclusionary zoning,
Right, to
right?
the extent, yeah,
but
okay,
we
fair
haven't
enough. Yeah,
gotten,
okay.
we haven't gotten anything.
Okay. And do you do small projects in addition to these large ones out of the Affordable Housing Trust, or is this basically the only?
No, actually, we had to cancel our meeting because of the huge snowstorm that we got on Tuesday night.
Yeah, it was
But
terrible.
at that meeting, we started this before COVID, and then we all know what COVID did to everybody's plans. We are going to be doing a senior home repair program. We're working on the application and the requirements now, but basically it is a way for seniors to stay in their homes. So if we can provide them funding for roofs, heating systems, we're going to be talking about upgrading more energy efficiency and combining that with mass saves and some other programs that I know are coming down the pipeline. So that's going to be our focus for
Yeah,
that.
okay.
We still have funds that were allocated to the rental assistance program that's still going on. So typically, every year, we take our North Shore Home Funds and we give that to Greater Lawrence Community Action Council, and they run a rental assistance program it's been really good. It's helped a few people to be able to afford an apartment and, you know, stay in North Andover.
Terry brought it up, but will the units absolutely go to North Andover, existing North Andover residents?
Is what?
Will the units go to existing North Andover residents?
So there's we always do a preference. We can't legally, I believe, make it just a North Andover resident, but it's a preference if you live, work, or your children go to school in North Andover.
Okay, and last question I had is, how's the math and economics in this? Is there any risk in this? Can you fall short? I mean, what if any risk is there on?
So, I mean, I think once they purchase the land, that, you know, they have a pretty good idea of what it's going to cost. Are you talking about financial risk?
Yeah, I mean, like, there's pro forma financials there, but what if it costs more to do the
So I think once
construction,
they
this, that, and the other
yeah,
thing?
I mean, the risk right now is that for some reason the seller decides not to sell, which I don't think that he will do. He's made a commitment to Bread and Roses for all, because it's the same seller that owns all of them. They're pretty good at doing their pro formas. I mean, there's always a risk that you won't get the grant funding that you anticipate, but it hasn't happened in the past, and there's so many affordable housing grant programs out there right now. I actually think the risk is lower because it's become quite a focus for the state to start providing more funding for that.
Yeah.
But we don't release anything. Like, if something were to happen and they ended up buying it and we gave them half of the money to use for the purchase, or even the whole thing, we have a mortgage on the property, so we own the property. If the town would own the property if they
But is
ever-
the mortgage actually in the town's name or in Bread and
It's-
Rose's name?
It would, well, we would be the holder of it. Yeah, the money goes to the trust, so the trust would then,
Wouldn't you have to go to town meeting to borrow the money? if you're
no,
taking a
it's one of
mortgage
the
out?
things that is in the Affordable Housing Trust. It's already in town meeting, the
Okay.
bylaws, yeah. So we have a security interest on that property should something happen and they don't go through with it, or, you know, for whatever reason. And then we could just sell it if we wanted to, or we could go to Habitat for
Yeah.
Humanity and ask them if they wanted it, so.
Sounds like, this is a project that everybody else on the committee is kind of familiar with from the past. Apologies, because I'm not, I'm kind of the new face.
That's okay.
Is there anything different about this transaction than sort of similar ones that you've done in the past, or anything kind of note that you might want to mention?
Besides the construction prices being so
Yeah,
high, no.
besides that.
Yeah, no, it's really, they use the same builders, they use the same, you know, design. I think we have, I always forget, 7, 8, I might have put it in the application, of these units already. It's the same thing that they've been doing for the last 10 years here, so.
Okay. All right, great. Well, that's it for now, right?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The Housing Authority.
Hi, I'm Maggie
Hi.
Cleary. I'm the director of the Housing Authority. I think I've been at the Housing Authority since late 2019, and I know I attended one of these hearings virtually, but this will be my first time presenting in person, so.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome, sorry, I didn't realize you
No,
hadn't
hi.
been here before, so.
Yeah. So our project is for, we're applying for funds to purchase and install standby power supply systems, more commonly known as generators. Not the Affordable Housing Trust, the CPC has provided the Housing Authority with funds in the past, and for the installation of emergency generators, we currently have them at 2 out of 4 of our state properties, Fountain Drive and Bingham Way, and we also used HUD capital funds to put one at Murkowski Meadows, and we have a contract signed to put one at McCabe Court. So this leaves Folds Terrace and O'Connor Heights. Folds Terrace has 52 one-bedroom units, and O'Connor Heights has 20 one-bedroom units and 10 single-room occupancy congregate units for severely disabled residents. So those are our only 2 without generators right now, and we'd love to be able to put generators at those ones. They would power the community rooms, so this past September, there was I think a weekend where a lot of residents in North Andover lost power. Most of our public housing complexes did, and having these community rooms available made a huge difference to the residents. I went there one Saturday. I went to Bingham Way and Folds Terrace, and I went to all the places Saturday morning and in September, and residents were in the community room making coffee, charging phones. There's a microwave. It just really took a lot of the stress of losing power out of everyone's mind, which was very helpful. I mentioned in my application it also added a general sense of security to the residents, and that's really true. When I first started, one of the first things that was brought up to me was the Columbia gas crisis, and that's why having these emergency generators installed was really important for people. And they just said it really helped with a sense of security to know that in the winter there's some at Murkowski in the building and everywhere else about 20 feet away that's going to have heat and electricity, and in the summer same thing, the air conditioner can be going and whatnot. So it's a pretty simple project, but that's that.
Great, thank you. The only question I had, just to start, was I see that it's kind of broken into 75 and 225. So
Yep.
75,000 for this year and 225.
I mean, it could be
For
however
next
you
year.
guys
Yeah.
want it. Typically, with our projects, the contractors requisition everything, so they don't do everything all at once. That was just kind of my estimate of going through what it would be, but
Okay.
I can probably break. I don't know how you
Yeah,
guys
no,
have
I
a
mean-
preference for breaking it down.
I think my only concern in going to you is I think we've supported this in the past. I don't see it as controversial. It's definitely like a definite, health and safety thing. And so I guess the question would just be if we allocate money all the time, it doesn't get spent within 12 months. Sometimes it might not get spent within 12 years. So if it would make more sense to have 300,000 and be able to go sort of start
fine
to
with me.
finish,
Sure.
that
Yep.
might be a better way, and we can just adjust.
That is
The application.
That makes total sense to me, especially working with the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, formerly DHCD. We will have to go through them. We'll do the whole procurement process, go out to bid. We'll have a project manager from EOHLC, and there can be some bureaucracy that holds things up, more so than if we can just, hey, let's get going. So.
The project going on, and you have to wait for more funding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Better off asking for the whole amount up front.
Okay, sure. Yep.
Ice.
I will. I can. Should I edit it and resubmit it, or is that?
I think we can make that, we can make
Okay.
that adjustment. And
Okay.
when we do our recommendations, so.
Great. Okay, I appreciate that.
Questions?
So you're using the high bid times 2.
That's what I was going with. In 2019, just as an estimate, in 2019, when we went to bid for the ones at Fountain Drive, Murkowski, and Bingham Way, the low bid was 60,000. When we did it in 2023, it was 98,000. So basically, it went up 40,000. I don't think it's going to go up that much, but
Okay. You'd still
don't
get the
know.
lower bid and
yeah,
give the money back.
I will. Yes, of course. I would. Yeah, we'll still go with the low bid, and I'm hoping it's closer to the 98.
And do you have to have engineering done first, or?
Yes.
Have you had that done already?
We have not had that done yet.
Okay.
I hope for all the generators so far, we've used the same engineer, Nangle Engineering out of Danvers. So he's familiar, with housing authority projects, the regulations that he needs to follow, and I don't expect that to be a big, I think it'll be quick,
Just a quick question. Do you have any other projects sort of on the horizon, just looking at it from the long term? We did the kind of comprehensive study a few years ago. I'm just wondering how everything fits together. Are you done the projects that you're working with now? And then what about future projects?
We do. We have, the way it works on the state side and the federal side, we have to have a 5-year capital plan. That capital plan, the items on the capital plan can be reprioritized, but, right now, we do have a kitchen renovation project at our Fountain Drive complex. That's in the 5-year plan. I mean, I'd like to see it moved up. Because of funding, it's sort of towards the end of our 5-year plan right now. But, if I could probably, it would be, I know the residents would like it to be moved up. I could certainly adjust that and see if, apply next year for stuff.
I mean, it's probably a good idea if, once a year you could come in and talk to us for a half hour.
I would,
about
of
it.
course.
I mean, it would be helpful to give us context of what you're thinking, so.
Sure. I know we have our large project that was going before I even started, and like Laurie said, was, COVID came and delayed everything, but the kitchen and bathroom renovation project at Family Housing, and that is paid for almost, 80% with CPC funds, and we're on the 5th out of 5 buildings, so there is an end in sight, and we've got some new residents who have moved, North Andover residents who have moved into some of the finished units, and it's been really great to see those occupied, and they look good. And once the project's totally complete, we are gonna do sort of I don't want to say ribbon cutting, but some type of ceremony and invite some people from the town and the state reps and things like that, because we also did get funds from EOHLC, and it's been a long project, so.
No, that's excellent. I mean, I think it's, it's important we get it done quickly, so.
So, one of the buildings I know doesn't have elevators. Does O'Connor Heights have elevators?
It does not have elevators. It's 2 floors. Out of the 21 bedroom units, there's a unit downstairs, unit upstairs, and then the congregate units are sort of in the middle. It's kind of like a U shape, and those are all first floor.
I guess the point I was making, and I was trying to when you guys did down the bottom of Green, is when you're putting in the generators, at that point, would it be a smart move to make them for the elevators also, so we can get people up and down? I mean, it'd be nice if we could do the whole building, but if, obviously, at least be able to move people around who may not be mobile,
That's our only building with an elevator.
Yeah.
But yes, I do see your point, definitely.
Any other questions? Okay, so that's affordable housing.
Housing authority.
Housing, and, well,
Oh,
a category
sorry.
of affordable housing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So,
I was doing it in my head the whole time, like when you would say affordable housing, I was like, oh, no, not me. So I'm
so
sorry.
thank you very much.
Maggie, nice to meet you. Thanks for
Thank
coming.
you.
Thank you very much.
And so next we'll go, we just have two historic preservation. Stevens Estate and the historic Bell. So.
Steve's doing it now, right?
Good evening, Stephen Foster, for those who maybe haven't met yet. The rest of the crowd, I think I know. Applicant here for the historic Bell. Got discovered when I was touring the building roughly a year ago with the architects who were designers for the middle school addition. And we had a brief discussion, maybe it could be included in that project. It didn't, and it kind of fell off my radar and theirs. Fast forward a week ago, I saw the same bell, and I jumped on an application. Bell has some history to it. It was in the middle school courtyard for a number of years till the yoke that supports it broke. It got put into a storage room. My first thought was maybe there's a better location, more prominent location, public and accessible location for this historic element. Cast in 1864, was in a building that burned in 1914. They recast it. The history from then till now is a little fuzzy. Needs some background information on it to get the history. Phases would be, first phase, more or less a history of it, and siting study, which I think we'd want to find a more prominent location for it. Maybe rendering from the architect, how it would look, and ready to go out, and phase 2 would be to construct that in the following year. You should have some pictures in there of the bell. I think, Ron, I did send you some more recent pictures of the manufacturer. I hope it came out. But I think it's a history part of it that's probably the biggest missing part of this link right now. And that's the long and short of it. If there's any questions on it,
Do we know what building burnt that came out of, or?
don't tell me. It's part of the history that is out
Right.
there that I don't know.
Right.
1914, what happened?
Yeah.
And it got recast the same year. I remember it being in the courtyard at middle school. So what happened in those years from 1914 to
Right.
now?
History? That might be past.
Yeah.
Is the amount you have in there, Steve, just kind of rough ballpark estimates?
So, yeah, yes. I wanted to get something in front. The first phase would be more of, like I say, siting studies, with some engineering, and get some bid documents ready. So phase 2, okay, let's build it. So, again, I was kind of throwing a few darts here
Yep.
to get it in.
So Steve, I may be totally misunderstanding, but is the cost to house the bell or restore it, or both?
Well, the bell looks in pretty good condition. I think it might be more of the supports for it, and maybe some sort of structure or some sort of place to display it is really where the construction cost comes in.
Is the idea that you would put it outside, or why can't you just put it downstairs?
Again, I think the siting study would bear that out.
Uh,
I don't know what the right location is, but I think it's a lot better than the storeroom it's in now.
That's for sure, yeah,
So,
yeah.
just more prominent.
Any idea what it's worth? No idea.
No.
It's a story.
That's,
Can't
It's old.
can't put a price tag on history.
I know it's an old bell.
So there's a couple of concerns that I have. One is some of the steps, it doesn't seem like would be covered by CPA. Research, even construction of whatever would behold the bell. I don't think either of those would be covered by CPA. There's also a little bit of a chicken and egg problem here in that for historic preservation, you're going to need the Historic Commission to tell you that this is of historic significance. And we don't know if it's of historic significance yet. So I don't think for this round of applications, I don't know if we have time to actually make that, be able to find that. So we talked about this a little bit at the Monday's Historical Commission meeting. One of the board members volunteered to work with the Historical Society to do the research so that we'll be in a position to know where the bell came from, whether it's of historical significance. I'm just not sure. I don't think we have time to do that between now and when we have to make the decision to approve the funds or not.
It seemed to me that if they put that in where they had that in the middle school, they probably put it there when it was built, it would seem to me there'd be some importance. They wouldn't just take a random bell and put it there. I would imagine. So I gotta believe it's gotta have some historical significance that they would do that, you know?
Well, yeah, and I'm not saying that it doesn't.
Right.
I'm assuming that also.
Right.
But I just don't know that we have the time to do the research to figure out what the significance is.
But when we took the pieces off the Bradstreet School and then reassembled them at the new Bradstreet School, we paid for that construction. That'd be a similar type thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is an interesting one. I think there's, as Ron said, there's two pieces to it. One is, does it qualify, you know, is it determined to be a historical structure, and then what portion of the work can be funded by CPA? I think we can, if we wanted to, move forward rather than hold it off for another year by making whatever decision we make contingent on resolution of those items. I think here, just sort of my initial reaction here, more than like with the Bradstreet stuff, the construction work may not fit because it's, you know, and again, you know, part of it is, what do you need? I mean, like, it feels to me, is this a, you know, is it a $30,000 thing? I realize you just put a placeholder in, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but is it really a $30,000 item to do that, or?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It really begs what location?
yeah.
Again, my concern is, we want to make it accessible. Is there
Yeah.
some ADA things that I need to do to get this public display accessible? So like I say, I threw a number out there as a placeholder.
Yeah,
The design and siting, well, studies will bear that out.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's a little bit CPA, a little bit Antiques Roadshow, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. It really looks cool. The
Yeah.
pictures are really cool. Where is it now, anyway? Can we see it?
It's at the middle school in the storage room that's adjacent to the stage.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So just give me a call, walk in there,
Yeah.
and show it to you.
Any other questions? So I think we'll, you know, I would say, like, Ron, let's keep the lines of communication open between, you know, CPC and the Historical Commission, and we can sort of look into it. You know, we're gonna have all the projects looked at as to their, you know, applicability. That's a step we sort of added in last year, you know, before we go for funding. So, you know, we'll do a little work, and at least we'll be, you know, we'll know more in a month than we do now.
Okay.
So,
Is there a process I go through, the Historical Commission, or, you know, or
I
is
don't
that
think-
through Ron, started already? How does that work?
So that anything that needs to be approved, it'll go on the agenda and we'll invite in whoever, the applicants to come in and do a short presentation. So
Okay.
if it,
You just give me a heads up.
we'll let you know.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you, John.
all right, thank you. Thanks, Steve. Okay. Next, the Stevens Estate.
So there's no rush on getting that.
Okay, well set.
Okay. I don't think I stated my name last time, so Lori Burzlaff, I'm the Assistant Town Manager, Director of Operations for the town. So this is our Phase 2 of the Stevens Estate Stables. We are currently in Phase 1 and have been a little delayed because prices are coming in a lot higher than we had anticipated. So Steve's working on that now, but we're hoping to have that all done. The stabilization of the floor and the removal of all the mold. So hopefully that's gonna be done in the next couple of months. And this is the second phase, which addresses all the masonry work. And we haven't gotten estimates on this, but this is what our architect thinks that is a good number to have that work done. And I think you have a copy of the summary of work that's in there.
So this is just for the masonry work?
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. Let's see.
But it's just gonna continue to deteriorate, like we're removing the mold, and once we do that, if we don't do the masonry, the mold's just gonna come back.
The roof is good now, right?
Nope, we're out to bid for the roof, that's another part of phase one, it will be, we're getting a whole new roof on there. That's actually, that should be done hopefully March or April. That's out to bid right now, so we're taking care of that for the intrusion that way. And Steve is looking at the basement and putting a vapor barrier in to try to stop that part of it. So once we can get it all tightened up, then we can move on to what are we gonna do with it? And, you know, there's been, it's really, you know, there's a lot of different ideas that we have. I mean, of course, Mass Audubon, who's taking care of all the land up there, would probably use it for programming. I know that Rick Gorman had shown some interest about programming. It also can be an income-generating property, like the estate itself. They've been very successful up there. In fact, we are getting more revenue this year, and it's only their second year. It's part of our agreement that if they reach a certain threshold, we get a certain percentage. And they've already hit it. We actually didn't, I don't think we expected them to hit it so soon. So there'll be more money flowing in to help do some of these repairs that are needed.
So I know the high school's interested in also to work with the cross-country team going out of there now,
Yep.
so that they would be able to use the bathrooms and
Yeah.
have shelter if they needed it, you know, if something were to happen. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge space, so once, I don't know if any of you remember, you probably remember, like, they used to have, I don't know, craft fairs in there.
Yeah,
and
they were
all
craft
kinds
fairs.
of different community things. I don't know, I remember going there for a fundraiser once. So, it's a really big building, so, you know, there's a lot we can do with it, but we need it not to fall down, so.
Just a comment, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Steve.
Masonry work.
Yeah.
The masonry work to which Laurie refers, most of that, of what's happening is on the north facade of the building. We've got water intrusion, freeze thaw, you can do the rest of the math. The wall is starting to buckle and bow. So that north wall is very critical to maintaining a stable structure there, because inside of that area as well, there's a probably 20-foot by 20-foot square area of flooring that's rotten out because of the same water. So that's the next big item, in my opinion, that we need to do to stabilize it. And the masonry probably has to be rebuilt in that area because it's buckled so much. I think it just has to be built from the foundation up. But the roof being done and controlling the water intrusion, I think, are critical elements to getting this thing stabilized to a point where we save it for the next future use. And the vapor barrier Laurie referred to, there's a dirt floor under the crawl space. And what happens is a lot of moisture comes up through the soil. Even though we have an exhaust fan going on 24/7, we've got to stop the moisture from coming in. So I think that's the next important step in controlling moisture. So I'll work with Laurie on it, hopefully get this done in short order.
The question I had is the phase after the second phase going to be the most expensive piece, refitting the interior, or when we're through the first two phases, is that the bulk of the cost?
Probably, I mean, because we're gonna have to do all of the heat and electricity and,
Yeah.
you know, so we're gonna be meeting, well, I'm actually meeting with Fireside tomorrow to go over like our capital plan of what
Yeah.
we wanna do for the next 5 years. The driveway is a priority, because it's very dark, so we wanted to get this tightened up.
Yeah.
We'll probably go to the driveway next and then come back to this, just because it's deteriorating when we get a lot of rain or snow, and we need to find a way to get that driveway done and have lighting up there. So that would
Yeah.
probably
No,
be the
that's-
next
that
thing.
makes sense. So,
But John, to answer, yes, the next phase will be the expensive one. All
Yeah.
the systems need to be rebuilt,
Yeah,
yeah.
top to bottom. All your finishes need to be redone. There's probably some structural items in here, all your windows and doors So that next phase gets pretty
Yeah,
expensive.
okay,
Yeah, we're a few years out,
yeah.
at least, before we are actually able to use it, so.
So sort of all in, how much do you expect that needs to be invested in this property for it to be where it needs to be?
I couldn't even guess.
There was a study done a few years back that I have a copy of, Laurie, and the architect put a number on it. The number escapes me now, but it's dated a few years. I think if you take that and probably put some construction inflation factors on it, you could get at least a rough number, and I can try to get that to you, Laurie.
It has to
That would
be a
help.
lot.
Yeah, so I can tell you that for the old senior center, to renovate that is $3.5 million. So that gives you any idea. And the old senior center is in much better shape than the stables.
Do you recall how many square feet it is?
In the carriage house?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Might have it in the report.
We have the old, we have that
I think
study.
it's in the report,
Yeah,
yeah.
we have that. I can't remember as much on the stable, because I think it was, I remember it more being about I remember that study because we looked at it, but I remember it more being about the, the original estate.
The main house.
Yeah.
I mean, the good news is this really is the last building
Yeah.
because the gatehouse is beautiful. And I'll be doing a presentation for the select board on the 27th showing pictures of the before and after at the gatehouse.
Is someone living there yet, or?
Yes, yep,
It's a long time for the gatehouse.
yeah, it's really, they did a really good job on it.
Great. Any other questions? Okay. Okay, I think thank you. And then we have one last, right, we have one last project, and that's the open space bandstand.
I'll talk to you later about some of this.
Okay. Well, you might as well stick around for this one too. Okay, so this is from the town manager's office. You guys were all familiar with the stage, which is basically, a piece of wood on four. It's really not a stage. So we're looking to build an actual stage where people can have performances on there. Be great for the children's shows and the band concerts that the youth center puts on, and needs to be handicapped accessible, so that's part of it. These are very preliminary. This, I think, Steve got last January, but I'm gonna look into maybe if there's some kind of prefab that can be done and delivered to the site. We're gonna do some research on, what the best way is to handle it.
Would it go in the same location?
I think so, yeah, because that's where the electricity is.
Would there be any other improvement to the entire common fields? Like clean things up, or is that just regular town maintenance? It
That
really
would
took a
just-
beating, that's why.
Yeah, that would just be the DPW.
Two questions. One, just mechanics. Do you actually have a design?
No,
Okay.
That's
But
part of this.
Okay.
yeah.
The other questions were, I think this one's going to be a tough fit for CPA because we're building a new structure. We're building a new structure from scratch. That you can't call that an existing bandstand that you're just refurbishing.
So, yeah, I looked it up. So on the Coalition's website, it says the open-air structures such as bandstands are definitely in keeping with CPA as long as it takes place on land dedicated to recreation, which
good.
the town common is,
There you go.
so.
Well, that's good to know.
And town
Yeah.
council will review it anyway.
Okay.
I was
Looking
gonna
to
ask,
make this one out of wood again?
Yeah.
I don't know, I mean, I guess whatever
I
would,
think the
composite
when the
decking, I
smoke
hope.
clears, Terry, I mean, you know, I remember all the history, like with McAvoy Field, working with old people, making sure everything is perfect. This has got to be perfect, because this is our crown jewel open space in town, so it can't be just thrown up. I think you're gonna need like a working group to design. I know, you know, putting more people into the mix and something like this makes it harder, but I think, given the criticality of the location, that would be the best way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, we're also in the Old Center Historic District. So, but I do agree with Rick, it needs to be composite wood. I can't see spending the money on
Granite.
something that's going to just deteriorate, you know, at some point in the future. So we could get a historic looking,
That's what I was thinking, whatever we build, I want it to be there for a while, you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we can certainly do a working group. I mean, it's something that's needed. It's something that, you know, I think everybody agrees would be a great addition to the common, and we can get rid of that old bandstand.
Laura, do you see this as like, is this going to change, you know, the common for a lot of North Andover in terms of like, is there going to be a lot more programming there now? Is there going to be more interaction there, or is this kind of more of an upgrade to what we have now, or a combination of both?
So I don't anticipate that there would be more, although Rick is very good about, Rick Gorman, who runs the youth center and does the shows, is always looking for stuff to bring into town for the community's benefit. So I can't speak for him, but I don't anticipate that it would be used more. It's really just an upgrade. The board no longer allows the common to be used by, you know, private applicants. There used to be an application process, and we no longer do that. It's strictly for town events, so it'd be sheep shearing, 4th of July, things that the festival committee would typically do.
Yeah, I just looked at it and noticed that it talked about concrete. It didn't have a division. The estimate didn't have a division for carpentry. It has like concrete slab and ramp. So I don't know if Mr. Foster wants to take a look at it and see, like, if, you know, again, I think, you know, we've all seen a lot of inflation in construction, and like if there's any way to sort of get it right once before we vote on the 14th, that might be advantageous, because that's what we've generally said.
Cheap one, actually.
Well, you did that, so. Do you want to comment on it? It came from you, so, the second page. So I think that, I agree, we want to get it right. I don't know if we'll be able to, I think it goes toward the working group though, too, so it's hard to get an estimate for what we want when we don't know what we want yet, if we want a working group put together to decide. But I mean, that's up to you. We could come back after the design's done and do it next year. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, that actually, you know, sounds pretty good, because I think, you know, like you said, it could be wooden bandstand, could be concrete.
Right.
Like, it could take a lot of different things, and if you're gonna be working through a bunch of different entities anyway, the likelihood that you get design, construction done in one cycle is
Right.
probably
Right.
low, so.
So we can certainly change the application for the design of the stage, and that'll give us time to get a working group together, decide what everybody thinks is best to put there. We don't envision going any really bigger, except where you have to make it handicapped accessible. We'll probably increase it a little, but as far as the footprint, I don't anticipate it being much bigger.
So I was involved in this, I got pulled in because the decking on it was on the bubble, you know. And looking at that, it kind of took off from there because the decking had to be replaced. And just for FYI, this is built in 2 sections. It was meant to be removable and then put back. It's become more permanent through the years. I reviewed it with the building inspector, and there are some structural issues here in terms of carrying capacity of the framing. There's no railings, ADA, et cetera. I've met the architect on site, and this evolved out of that discussion we had on site. And I just left it open as far as design, but one thing that Rick did mention, he said it could be a little bit bigger because the bands that he has there sometimes can't fit on the stage. So maybe just grow it a little bit, not big, just to accommodate that. The architect came up with a scheme. He says, gee, so we don't have to look at railings, which, you know, has some aesthetic impact. What if we just burned up the earth and put a concrete deck up here and forgo the railings on those sides? It will look a lot better. We put a ramp on the back. So I said, okay, keep talking. This kind of reflects that design concept. So it was in keeping with the, you know, existing landscaping. It wouldn't have some obtrusive deck out there. We thought it might fit better, but pending design approval. Obviously, it has to go out to some sort of working group to get approval. But this is where this came from. It was that kind of dialogue on site, and to get a budget together for that concept. Here we are.
No, that's helpful, because I think you're right, like a lot of scope creep, and sometimes simple, you know, I can see the attraction of that too, like a simple structure that kind of fits in with the landscape, you know, is a lot easier to get people to agree to than, you know, when you start talking about a gazebo and that sort of stuff. So.
Well, it did take off, you know, he started talking roof, and I said, time out. So we stopped there.
Yeah.
That's what this reflects.
Yeah, yeah, because then you have teenagers hanging around on it in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So.
Any concerns with vandalism?
I didn't see much vandalism around the stage. I think it was just weather taking its toll on the deck. Really is what it was. It's treated wood, but again, you know, after a while, the things cop and warp. That's what I saw mostly out there as being the issue on the deck. I didn't see many signs of vandalism.
Any other questions?
I mean, if the proposal, the way it's written, if we, you know, we can stop at the design, if it looks like the design's gonna go way more, I mean, I'd hate to think if you could get it done and just move forward, rather than break it out. It's up to you, how you think it would go, but, I mean, we could always put it forward, and then you could come in and revise it next year when the, you know.
I mean, I would like to see, like, a picture of what it's going to look like.
Sure.
You know,
You'll probably
a
have to show that to a number of people.
rendering, because really, these numbers don't really mean much until we can show people this is what we want to do. So, I think until we have something that we can show people, and maybe it can get done. I just don't know how to do that with a working group. Like, you can't get a rendering until you get your input. So,
Right.
you know.
We perhaps phase it one, design,
Maybe it makes
rendering,
sense to go for
some
design.
approvals.
That's
We
good,
have to
yeah.
go through historic district and all that.
Well, that's what they would just say.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that, you know, I think we can, I would say, Steve and Laurie, that if you came back with like best estimate for design, and maybe that's an easy quote for them to pull.
You can call it phase one.
We can call it phase one, and we'll go from there. I think that's probably the best approach. So yeah, I would just, send to Zach and the committee what you think you need, and that's what we can use as a basis when we make our judgments in March.
Okay.
Okay. Great.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Okay. All right, let me just check the agenda. In terms of financials, I mean, we don't have any new information. We have one more approvals meeting on, what is it? Is it the 29th? What? Yeah. The 29th? We have one more approvals meeting. You know, we have more projects to see.
We didn't get any more projects from those people we had little question marks on. An example was the Patriot Park. Or were they coming back with any refresh?
No, I don't,
No.
that's
The
what,
14th?
The 14th is when we vote, and it slipped my mind when the next meeting is.
Okay.
Uh,
March 7th. Is
Yeah.
what I have. We have the 15th, March 7th, and March 14th, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, got it. So on the 7th, we'll hear the last of the applications. What I'll do it before that meeting is, kind of put everything in columns again, and we'll kind of look at it project by project with, with all the financials, and we can kind of decide, on the 7th, maybe we have that discussion around what's an appropriate amount of funding to put out the door this year, and that can help us set the table for the last meeting. I think that's probably the better way to go than to start, approving projects and then seeing what we end up with as a, as a sum at the end. I think it's better if we are a little bit more strategic about it. So does that make sense for the 7th meeting? We'll finish the applications, go over the finances, and kind of, and we don't have to take a formal vote or anything. I think we could get as close to consensus as we can get, and then, have an idea of how the pieces fit in for that. So, I think, I know that the biggest project also has the most uncertainty, which is not surprising, because there are lots of moving pieces in the Recplex, and, I'm not sure what's going to come through this year. They did put an application so that we could consider it, and it may or may not come through, and I'm not sure how much it'll come through for. So, but we know that that's going to come at some point. So, I'm sure.
Whatever we vote on this year with that, though, nothing will come out of our budget for this year. Wouldn't come out. The first money wouldn't even come out until sometime, fall of a year from the fall, right? Rick?
Oh, you look at me.
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct, yeah.
Yeah, so the first money wouldn't come out until like a year from this November.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, the money gets reserved once.
Right, no, I
Right.
know that, yeah.
Well, there's still some design pieces that need to be
Oh,
small,
cleaned up and,
buttoned up.
yeah. Is there going to be any kind of substantial change in, the scope of anything, or is it basically the same thing?
No, it's basically the same. The only change in scope is along the abutters property line with the fence line. It was an alternate design to basically leave the fence, the chain link fence, in place as it is today, and just pull the project in a little bit, so there was some moderations over there.
Okay.
That's really it.
But the functions and the features.
All of the facilities that are proposed for that redevelopment would be the same.
Yeah.
Nothing has changed.
Okay, so that's the agenda. I have a motion.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.